Good afternoon. This is the Green Room. I'm Caitlin Matson. We have a very special guest with us this afternoon, the brand new executive director of the Wichita Symphony Orchestra, Tim Storhoff. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
That's right.
We're so grateful for you to take the time to speak with us today. You are in the midst of a huge life change,
Yeah.
coming to us from Winston-Salem.
Yeah. But by the end of the week, we will be in Wichita, and I cannot wait to be there because that'll mean the move is over. And I'm just so excited to be really on the ground getting started with such an amazing organization.
You are or have been Chief Philanthropy Officer for the Winston-Salem Symphony. How long have you served in administrative roles in a symphony orchestra?
So started with the Winston-Salem Symphony in 2018. So just got to my 6-year mark this end of the summer, beginning of the fall.
Would you say that a leadership role such as executive director is a dream job for you?
Yeah, maybe 6 years ago, I wouldn't have said that. I'm someone who fell out of love with classical music at a point and came back to it, partly through working with orchestras and getting to know all the people. And the more time I spent, I realized being in an orchestra was the place for me.
It's so interesting to hear, but not an uncommon story. When I talk or we hear stories from professional musicians, maybe starting out in academia or a performing career, getting to a point where they, you say, fall out of love with classical or maybe reach a period of burnout
Yeah.
and then suddenly pivot the way that they have not only approached the music or the business, but just find a new home within it.
Yeah, I was a bassoon player, was a bassoon performance major as an undergraduate, and sort of got to a point where I felt like the music wasn't connecting with the broader community the way I wanted it to. And then went to study world music, ethnomusicology, if you want to use the long word for it, as a graduate student, and found my way into being a grant maker and then working
Mm.
for orchestras and just seeing how compelling the programming can be, and it really can connect with communities. And I think I found what Wichita is doing is connecting with the community in a way that I think we can continue to build on, and that's what I'm really excited about.
Something that I believe the Wichita Symphony and symphony orchestras around the world are quite proud of right now is how they navigated the pandemic, where they had to reimagine the way they connect with an audience. Everything from how to literally bring music to a listener's ears during a pandemic shutdown, but also how to stay afloat financially, how to maybe
Mhm.
sell a virtual ticket. Do you, now that we're on the other side of that, do you see certain strengths or certain tools that people have, gathered along the way to help?
I think video media is something that we as an industry had kind of been ignoring for far too long. And then essentially overnight, every orchestra had to become a media production company. Uh, in early March at Winston-Salem in 2020, we did a concert with Rachel Barton Pine, happened to have one camera in the back of the hall just for archival purposes. And then when the pandemic hit, we realized that was all we had for video, that one concert, and kind of had to go back and create original content. But I think we found that that's a way to reach audiences, new audiences, and show people who may not think that classical music orchestras are for them, that there is something there for everyone, and it opens a lot of doorways.
And kind of strips away the pretentiousness, suddenly making music, string quartets performing in jeans in somebody's living room and, blasting it across social media while everybody was at home.
Yeah,
That as well. It's for everybody. Come as you are.
yep. And I think it was a great way for us to introduce the musicians themselves to people. When you come to a concert, you kind of feel removed from, you know, the concert blacks up on stage. There's this wall there, but during the pandemic and since, like, we've leaned into finding ways to make the musicians human These are people with stories and amazing talents. And when you hear those stories, it makes people also want to come hear them perform.
We have so much more to talk about, and we'll get there in a moment. Let's take a little break. We're going to hear the beginning of Mozart's 40th Symphony, which is actually part of the Masterworks season. I believe people will hear it sometime in October.
Yep.
The season itself does kick off this Saturday. Tell us about this Saturday's concert.
This Saturday, She's Got Soul with Capathia Jenkins. When I was doing the ethnomusicology thing, I got to teach popular music classes. The soul music unit was my favorite to teach, so I am so excited about this concert because she's going to bring audiences essentially on a crash course through the history of soul music from the 50s up until today.
You can get tickets at wichitasymphony.org. We'll be back and talk more with the new executive director of the Wichita Symphony, Tim Storhoff. Mozart's 40th Symphony, that was the first movement. The Wichita Symphony Orchestra will be performing that on their very first Masterworks concert of the season, which I believe is October the 5th. However, the season begins this Saturday with She's Got Soul, a tribute to soul Aretha Franklin, fabulous pops concert to kick off the season. And I have their brand new executive director, Tim Storhoff, here with me in the green room. First of
Thanks.
all, welcome to Kansas. Welcome to Wichita. We're so excited for you and your wife to come join us here. Can you talk about one thing you're excited about that has nothing to do with the symphony? What are you looking forward to?
Nothing. Getting to know the city, really. We've only been able to spend uh, a few days in small chunks there so far. So being able to get there at the end of the week and get settled. And I've heard there are many amazing, great restaurants. Uh, Stopped into a bookstore while we were there, and I imagine we'll be spending a lot of time there going forward. Yeah, really just going back and forth and finding places to discover.
What's one of the biggest challenges you anticipate as you step in as executive director to the symphony? They are celebrating their 80th year, so definitely an establishment. And also you're stepping in with a season that's already been handpicked, tailor-made, before you were hired to be given somebody else's baby almost.
Yeah, well, thankfully we have the amazing maestro Daniel Hagee on hand who selected this season, and it's a great one to step into. You mentioned we've got the concert this weekend. We start with Celebration, the Cool in the Gang song is the very first song, and that's going to take us all the way through Beethoven 9 at the end of the season. So I feel like we're bookending it with joy. It is
Yes.
a year of fun, happiness, celebration. Yeah, we'll hit all the emotions throughout the concerts, but there is a lot to be looking forward to. I'm thrilled that we've got Beethoven 9 on this anniversary season because that is such an opportunity to, again, bring new people in. It's
Uh-huh.
a piece that is both accessible and more deep than anything we can pull out of the archives.
It's transcendent, and to experience it in person, hard to put into words. And definitely a way to maybe capture a couple new people coming into the concert hall.
I think so. In terms of challenges, which you asked about, I think every performing arts organization faces some of the same things. It gets more expensive to do what we do every year, but you can't keep raising prices to cover all of that because it
We
gets,
can't afford it.
yeah, it becomes inaccessible to people. So
Yeah.
you have to get creative, have to make those connections with the community and really show everyone that this is something that benefits the entire community. I think the education programs that the Wichita Symphony Orchestra has are something that we can celebrate more and spotlight more. The youth orchestras program is gigantic, which was one of the pieces that really attracted me to this position.
A personal bit of information. I fell in love with classical music when I started playing with the Wichita Youth Symphony.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, I think there are so many people who at some point had probably gone through that program. We're going to work on getting them all back into the concert hall to see what this organization is doing these days.
Yes, and I think you'll be met with a very willing community of just passionate art supporters. As we kind of overlap, here at the station, a classical public radio station, all of our supporters or supporters
Mhm.
of the classical arts in the central Kansas area. And I think there's such a passion to not only see it sustained into the future, but for it to grow. And I think convincing certain audience members that it's okay that it looks different than it once did is important.
Yeah, it's a tradition, yes, 80 years as an organization, but it's a tradition that has constantly been transforming. We sort of have this idea of that the classical music experience has always been sort of one way, but if you look back at how people experience concerts in the 18th century, the 19th century, it is very different than what we do now, and it will continue to change to meet the needs of contemporary society.
Well, congratulations and welcome to town. Very exciting that the next season is upon us. We go through a drought every summer.
Yeah, there's, you know, musicians get their chance to rest, get that energy back, but we
Nonsense. Well, we look forward to the new season of Wichita Symphony, which kicks off this Saturday. To get tickets and for further information, go to their website, wichitasymphony.org. Um, Again, I've been talking with the brand new executive director, Tim Storhoff, who comes to us from Winston-Salem, quite literally moving right now.
yeah, the truck comes tomorrow.
We wish you safe travels, and we will see you this weekend in the concert hall.
Great. Thank you so much, Caitlin.